Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Revenue Insights podcast. We're excited to welcome Peter Cron, Chief Revenue Officer at U.com. Peter is one of those rare revenue leaders who has repeatedly joined companies before the revenue engines existed, and then built it. From Siebel to Salesforce and C3.ai and now U.com. He's helped scale multiple enterprise software companies through hypergrowth and IPO. Today at U.com, Peter is leading global go-to-market for enterprise AI search infrastructure, helping organizations deploy AI agents powered by real-time data, internal knowledge, and trusted outputs. If you want to understand what it really takes to build a billion-dollar revenue engine in emerging categories like AI, this is the conversation. So without further ado, welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Guy. Great to be here. Wonderful introduction.
So let's get started, Peter. Perhaps you could start by giving us a little bit of background as to how you got to the role you're in at the moment.
Okay, so I've always looked for shifts in the industry. So I've been lucky enough when I was at Siebel, that was a client server coming from what was mainframe. I wasn't old enough to be in the mainframe space there, Guy. And then we went from Siebel to Salesforce. I just shifted utility computing, which obviously became SaaS that we know today. Then went to C3.ai, which is enterprise AI. And then, November the 30th, 2022, my world changed. That was the launch of ChatGPT. Right. When I was a consultant at that time. So basically advising young CEOs on go-to-market strategy for VCs. Yep. I thought I need to jump back in. I need to be part of this. Yeah. And I was looking at where to go. And to be honest, at my age, it was quite difficult to get OpenAI, Plexity, or anybody like that to sort of listen to you. But Benioff had reached out to Richard Social when he's looking to make change from consumer to enterprise. And this sort of, you need someone with enterprise DNA who's been there, done it before. Carl Schachter reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to do this gig? And I jumped at it straight away. I looked at Richard's Brian's academic background, and you realize you want to be with some really, really solid technical people or a good salesperson that aside them from now that you build the foundations.
Very exciting. So you saw it coming.
Yeah.
And made a conscious decision that was the next step for you.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, because it's a learning, right? It's a transformation that's going to do. So you do these things because you want to build something, you want to grow something, you want to leave a legacy and everything else. I thought this is my opportunity.
But there's a lot of AI companies out there now, right? So, and if, not all of them are going to exist in 3 or 5 years. So how do you assess an organization when you look at it to work out whether it's actually got longevity, especially considering if you're getting involved at an early stage?
I think just before we answer that question, the point is when we joined Siebel, we were making a market for CRM. When we joined Salesforce, we had to make the utility computing market. So to get traction took a lot of freaking hard work, right? You try selling in 2003, your data in London that's going to be stored in an American server here in San Francisco. At the times the phone got put down, thought we were crazy and mad. This is different this time, to your point. The opportunity is huge. It's a TAM that we've never, ever, ever seen in our lifetime before. However, it's the most competitive time for we've ever seen in our lifetime before.
Yes.
So if you look at my word and follow the money where it's going right now, it's 250 billion invested last year, going about mainly in the valley into Gen AI type companies. But it's fewer companies with bigger chips on us that are going into them. Interesting. VCs predict that 99% of all Gen AI companies are going to fail in the next 1 to 2 years, not the next 3 to 5 years. Regardless, there's going to be a terrible attrition rate. So you do have to choose really wisely and carefully. What you're also seeing is the LLMs are literally destroying the front office. Yeah. Any application. So anybody's a wrapper around an LLM, you should look really careful with the value proposition and what they're doing. So going back to your question, I think the 4 fundamentals I risk for is one is the people. But it's a team sport at the end of the day. You need to have the right people, the right skills, in that particular team that have an absolute right focus, ability to execute, and have a proven track record of doing it. Yeah. Now, a lot of them don't have that in this space right now because it's younger generation, which is fantastic, right? But they do need some older grey hairs to guide them.
Thank goodness.
Yes, that keep us employed, right? So, but I think people there that are academically really strong and not just putting a wrapper, that really understand the fundamentals of this. Yeah. So with Richard and Brian, I would put them on the Mount Rushmore of generative AI. It was a very, very lucky to meet with them, which is recognized as one of the leaders. He is one of the third most cited NLP research scientists in the world. And it's Richard and Brian's work that gets probabilistic models embedding that what vectorized word vectors then now we know it's basically, we're nailing outputs, right, to content creation, changing and everything else. That was part of their research.
Okay.
So OpenAI read that and went, oh my God, we'd stop doing gaming. We should do ChatGPT 2.0.
Yeah.
And they credit Brian for his paper, the Decathlon paper 2018. So look for people that read that type of thing.
So you're looking for rock stars that really know what they're talking about.
Exactly, because my success was through following people a lot smarter than me. The Steve Garnett being one of them, Phil Robinson being another one, on Jeff Squire and everything else as well. These people are deals of European tech industry. They're built, distribution for American software companies. They're much smarter than me, PhD in particle physics and everything else as well. So I followed them first of all, and I learned from them.
Okay.
So people say the first sort of one. Yeah, I never changes. Number two is a market opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, pretty obvious, right? Going back to my point before about some people, the amount of people that left Salesforce in the early days. So this company's not going to be successful. No one's going to restore their computers or information adherence. And they're not going to be an enterprise grade software company. Well, up until last year, it's a $300 billion business. The market built. But so is a market, what direction is the market going in? How big is the market? Right? What's the dynamics of it? How could people buy and they buy? Is there a real pain in that market? Most software companies fail. They run out of money, obviously.
Yep.
But they run out of money, so you can get the product market fit because there isn't demand for that particular product yet. So you've got to really qualify now. So you've got to go and say, okay, here's your ICP, type of ideal customer, like go talk to the sales VP, the marketing VP, the CTO, CIO of the particular companies you're targeting where you think there is. You hear that feedback.
Makes a lot of sense.
And make sure you're intellectually honest with yourself, that you're not having a happy ears on because you really want the job, because it sounds really fun to be with nice people. You research, can I really, really be successful? The third one's a product.
Yeah.
Now, in the olden days, if you had the most amazing people or the great market opportunity, the product didn't matter so much, right?
Yeah.
Because you knew it'd always catch up. You could bridge it with the relationships, with CS, calls, and everything else. I think it's different.
Okay.
Betty Off used to talk about the dehumanization of technology with his original page for Salesforce is that the 9-year-old girl can order with dad's credit card a video on Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Why can't enterprise software be simple?
Yeah.
And it never was, right? Salesforce became what they set out to destroy, the Siebel, too complex on the user interface. With this new generative AI, and we're talking about hard space.
Yeah.
Time to first token, getting value from it, getting answers that are highly accurate and everything. It's instantaneous. Yeah, but you've got this shadow IT that's going around that everybody's using, a ChatGPT, a Claude, a U.com, Lexdeal, whatever it may be, and they're all finding productivity and everything else. But the speed is done at. So to put it into context, the ChatGPT got to 100 million users in 60 days. Wow. It took Google 5 years to do that.
Yeah.
It's 60 times faster. Yeah, very well. Now, we know lots of people aren't seeing an ROI yet, but that's because they're point solutions until we start to stitch them all together. Yeah, but who's going to win the desktop? We're not going to be in between, I think, Anthropic, Gemini, maybe a bit of Microsoft, we'll see, and obviously OpenAI. But the product is so important now. Running these PLG motions as well.
Yeah.
There's no about getting a freemium. It's about the product selling itself internally and having that instant value. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And that's why you see a lot of consumer people working in the enterprise space to get that moment really quickly. And of course, fourth is timing. Right space. There's never been a better time. It's moving so fast, but timing here is a speed of change that really go move that as a company is can they go to the market because it is absolutely crazy. So those would be my 4 foundation.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you find an opportunity where there are only 3 of the 4 are in place, it's very tempting just to go, oh, it'll be fine, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, all you're doing is you're just investing time in something that's eventually going to go to zero. So it's very tempting, but you have to be honest with yourself about these things.
Yeah.
So a lot of the enterprise B2B software companies that are coming across are really trying to work out what their moat is.
Yeah.
And again, it could be a custom data set and others don't got access to, which again is a great way of protecting yourself. The software itself is no longer a moat.
No.
We saw that with Monday.com and the speed in which people can recreate software now is only going to get faster. So talk to us about the moats that you're seeing that are working in this space.
Yeah, so we've had to do a number of pivots in the last 5 years to come down. People who come to 2 years, I joined when they pivoted for literally a consumer-based brand. And we were doing a few $1 million in the consumer. We were burning, okay, but the interesting thing is, if you go back and it's about playbooks, the SaaS playbook, the gold standard is triple, triple, double, double, double. Everybody knows on these. Like you start to go to 0 to 1, but go to 3, go to 9, 80, 36, 72 IPO.
Yeah.
Right? You need to do that in like 6 months to a year in these days.
Yeah.
From a growth point of view. And then you think, well, how the hell do you do that? And how do you differentiate yourself when you're going out that way? So brand and distribution,
Yeah.
I think are really important. And then it comes down to actually your data, as you say, your data source as well. And where do you fit on the new stack? Right. Because now you've got the hyperscalers, so you've got the NVIDIAs, the chip providers, right?
Yeah.
You've got the LLM providers that sit on top of that. Then you've got who owns the middleware, the process and everything else. And then you've got this app layer, which you completely change this human interface of how we talk and engage with computers is going to be so different in the next 12 to 24 months, right? So we were front end, right? That's getting wiped out.
Yeah.
That's absolutely getting wiped out. To your point with that Monday.com, get Salesforce marked down, get Circs now getting marked down, look at CrowdStrike getting marked down.
Yeah.
You know, the legal companies getting marked down, everything else as well. So that's going to change dramatically. So we are now focusing on building an index. So building the world's first index to AI agents so they can accurately, efficiently answer any domain question.
Okay.
What does that mean? We believe that humans will have anything from 20 to 30 agents as productivity to help them in their job. So we believe this hybrid model will be a lot more productive and everything else. We believe a lot of junior positions will be eliminated, like analysts, wayland job, data gatherers, and doing reports and everything else as well, because all that can now be sort of automated. But in the enterprise space, unlike consumer, they need ground truth. Like, you need domain expertise, they need context, they need freshness, they need to be kept up to date, right? So we suddenly went, well, we can supply that to everybody that's building agents. So we're building an index, first of all, and the original web indexes like Google, which is the big daddy, 400 billion pages. Then you've got Bing comes down here, then you've got Brave, and you've got these little players that come along here as well. We want to build an index just for agents, not for humans.
Right.
And for humans, this keyword search is designed for advertising, and there's core ways you do it for product, for location, for specific website, right, where you know the product you want, wherever it be more, you search and everything. That's not how agents search. They're not lazy like humans, where they can fan the query, lots more information, and then go a lot deeper. But most people, those trades, the depth, you might need, it could be a legal expert or a healthcare expert or financial services expert.
Yeah.
So as an example, if you went and ask Google, whichever I will say, how many drugs were approved by the FDA in September 25?
Yeah.
You will say, oh, many drugs were approved. These are the top 8 or 16 that were done right.
Yeah.
That's not good enough, right? If you go to the FDA website and you search for up to 484 who are approved, I want to know every single drug, and I want to scrape all the PDFs and all the submissions, course, and everything. That's not what normal human consumer searches for. Yeah. So that's when we think there's going to be a big moat for you can differentiate between these agents.
So effectively a search engine specifically optimized for the agents. Exactly. Okay, I love that. That's fantastic. So one of the other big changes that we're seeing, or the big shifts, is a move away from kind of traditional SaaS-based pricing.
Yeah.
And people linking there, trying to really focus on, we started, you and I are old enough to remember when we were selling CapEx, right? So customers would come in and they spend a lot of money, but they'd spend it one-off. Yeah. And then we moved to this SaaS model where people effectively were renting their software. Yeah. But the beautiful thing was it was recurring, and that's how we got all our valuations. Yeah. Now we're seeing a big shift to try and align value to proxy. Mm-hmm. So how are you seeing that evolve? And because there's nowhere to hide there, right? You can get customers signing up, but if they're not actually using the service, if they're not getting the value, then there's no revenue there.
100%. So there's 2 ways you can do that. So when I joined Kong, we were seat-based pricing, just like ChatGPT and everybody else. Well, you $20 a month and $15 if you paid for the year. When we switched to enterprise, I went around and just met as many customers as possible, the CEO. And the number one question I said, what's your adoption rate like? And they measure it and they go, well, over 25,000 people we've rolled it out to, we got 4%. So how did you find adoption rates? How many queries are they doing per week, basically?
Yeah.
And on average, 4% were doing 1 query per week, right? That's the lowest I saw. Yeah, right? The average is about 12 or 15%. Okay. And the best I saw was one of the world's most famous consulting firms got 46% or have 46,000 consultants with this 53%. I said to Richard, if we go seat-based pricing, we got a massive attrition problem. after a year.
So only half of the users were actually using the software that they were licensed.
Exactly. It wasn't a discipline like CRM and the roll now Siebel and crap or like the sales BP quality forecast and it doesn't exist and Salesforce, it doesn't exist at all, whatever it may be. So I think we need to align behind their customer success. Yeah. And I think we need to go usage-based pricing. Now we had the advantage we had, and this is where organizations change, is you have a very good analytics department, right?
Yeah.
We need to know all you use during a platform. It's with a MAU of 10 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
So we could see what our power users were doing 150 queries a month.
Yeah.
And what our lower end users were doing and everything else. So we basically say, we worked it out, we basically have a bell curve distribution, we say, and we used to up to 1,000 users, fine. What bucket of percentage of queries do you need? Right, and we'd start below to make sure you're going to be successful. And if you want to add to that bucket later, you can obviously that's on Salesforce. Yeah. Right? A lot of customers love that.
Okay.
The next iteration of that is obviously outcome pricing, where you say, did you close our trouble ticket? It will cost you $4 before, $5 before. The human is cost you 20 cents or $1. Yeah. Whatever it may be. I've heard some pushback on that pricing. I don't think that's quite right at the moment, but I think that's where the industry will go.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I like the bucket idea because it helps the CFO kind of get to grips with this idea that we're going to be paying based on the usage. But don't worry, you're not going to get different bills every month. Assuming that you stay in this bucket, you know what you're in for. But I had a really interesting. The last podcast we did was with VP of RevOps for Intercom. And Intercom were really early in the AMA space, so I don't want to do them a disservice. But they were the way I consider Intercom historically in the old days was it was a chatbot on the website, right? And obviously they launched their first AI product 3 months after ChatGPT came out. And talking to them about kind of the journey that they've gone on, what they can, so for example, if you're this AI-based chatbot now and you're on a bank's website, well, if someone's asking to, the opening times of the bank, and that's one thing, right? And you might pay 20 cents for that because, the value is relatively low and they probably could have searched for that themselves. But if you can connect to enough of these disparate systems around the bank and put all the authority in place where if I've broken or lost my debit card, I can now use that chat experience to actually get my new bank card ordered, right? Now, all of a sudden, that's probably worth $5, right? Because now we can take out a human process, and as a consumer, I've been able to get what I need much, much quicker. Yeah. So I'm now happier as well. But obviously, that raises all sorts of challenges because you have to make sure that the person requesting the bank card is the person who you're going to send the bank card to. Yeah, and it makes sense. So really interesting to look at charging based on different use cases and the impact that use case has on the cost base. Yeah. So I think there's some really interesting conversations happening at the moment about the different ways of commercializing these models. But the one thing they all have in common is trying to link the pricing through to value.
Yeah, it's actually really complicated at the back end. So that's why I was alluding to it. You need amazing web ops leaders, right? You need really good billing engineers as well. But yeah, we understand this because we take a lot of the LLMs. So they all price differently. And then we build our APIs on top of that. And then based on the use cases you're referring to. So for example, you go and do a web search. That's $5 to $8 per CPM, cost per 1,000 queries for us, $0.08, right? To bring it. And to us, a web search is a question and answer. Who's Guy Rubin? Like, comes about forecast, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'll create it. That's one query. Yep. Yeah. Some people price it differently based on what he's doing and everything else, and they make you think it's cheaper than it actually is and get a lot more complicated. So I don't want to go that. If you go to the other end where you're a salesperson doing research and you use a deep research product like our RE product, stands for Advanced Research Insights, that in 5 minutes will go and talk to up to 1,000 websites. It will do chain of thought thinking, it will do reasoning and everything else, right? Go read the site, it will bring back a bunch of things important to you. It will then structure it into a PDF, it will create an index, it will create charts for you and everything else, and then output it to you. You now have this amazing research report that will take in a top analyst 4 days, a week to do, whatever it may be. Yeah. Now that's $25,000 per thousand, which is $25 per report. Makes sense. But it will cost thousands to do it. Tens of bucks. Yes. And what scares people for me to outcome-based pricing is they get worried then. They think, well, Christ, how many queries might we get? We did this and you'll be doing this. But whereas the control of the employee, fixed overhead. And the other issue you're dealing with is obviously internal politics, like Turkey's voting for Christmas. Yes, of course. Yeah. And what you are seeing is a bit of change with CEOs that basically say, double my revenue, not my headcount. Exactly that. And they're rewarding people internally who embrace AI and make it part of them. I was going back before, 20 to 30 agents, right? In this hybrid model where they work together very cohesively.
So we're just today launching our P2B benchmark report. So every year we do a report where we analyze, this year I think we've analyzed nearly $50 billion worth of revenue across over 700 businesses. And I suppose the conclusion I got to when I looked at the analysis was that we're seeing almost a tale of two AI strategies. Okay, so there's still a big chunk of the market that are using AI as a kind of a brute force tool. So in those organizations, we saw the top of funnel activity, that the volume of deals entering top of funnel increase in a single year by over 60% per day. Huge amounts of volume because they're using AI to generate lots and lots of leads. But there's no real thought behind them. That it doesn't match ICP, and the average deal values are and when we look at the volume of deals closing, also increases, but the revenue per seller is going down dramatically, dropped by 25%. Right? These organizations are having to employ more and more and more sellers because they've got all of this volume, but the efficiency of the sales function is dropping through the floor.
This is the CRM problem. I remember Tom Siebel's book I read, 96, on the drone Siebel. And he likened it to the car industry, decade before, more 2 decades before, in the 70s, when robots came in to make cars. And what happened is GM spent billions on basically turning their factories into automated robots, so the building and everything. But the quality at the other end was still crap.
Exactly.
The reason why it was crap was because the deadbolt was going in, the parts, it hadn't gone all the way back into the supply chain to change. That's all they did was put more rubbish through it more efficiently.
Yes, exactly.
This is AI.
And if you haven't locked down your go-to-market motion, if you haven't got the rigor in place to keep people disciplined around the gates and triggers between the different stages as you're progressing through a sales cycle, or making sure you're qualifying well and after, and making sure that you're not going through a sales process with anyone with businesses that just really aren't matching anywhere near ICP, then all you're doing is using AI to accelerate the failing, or the cost, and all of these inefficiencies just get broader. The businesses where we're seeing the opposite, where they're using AI to maintain that rigor, to focus on OSCP, to ensure that every customer gets qualified correctly, to make sure that they're multi-threading with the right stakeholders at every stage of every sales cycle, effectively using AI to introduce that level of consistency. So getting under the skin of what top performers do every day and making sure that we hold everybody else to the same bar, to the same level of account. And when those organizations, we actually saw the volume of deals they closed last year drop by 8%. But the revenue per seller massively increased. And because the average deal values went up, the win rates increased, and the focus on ICP meant that they were building a real valuable business. And so in a way, while everything is changing, actually nothing is changing when it comes to the consistent way that the fact that relationships still drive revenue, and rigor and discipline around how you run your sales cycle is more important today than ever before.
Yeah. I tell you, I would challenge is the speed things are changing here. And what I mean about that, the sales process, and I can only talk from generative AI point of view.
Yeah.
So I'm in an unfortuitous position.
Yeah.
But our AS, once the I levels, we were taking any revenue before. We were very horizontal.
Yeah.
I didn't go to market by vertical. Okay. And that was good, but it becomes a bit of a customer suck issue. It's a customer service issue to service all these people, demands it. And everything else as well. So I stopped that, and some of the minimum is $100,000.
Yeah, Bruno, let's go there.
And the E2E type business is not very like this, very, very different type of business. But what I found is it changed the seller's behavior, right? Every seller here has to be an AI first seller, by the way. So sellers tend to spend 23% of the time actually from the customers. Yeah. We're supposed to do BS and, research and that. I live to double or triple that.
Yeah.
With bringing AI in.
Makes sense.
But also the first call is super important. Now, go back to what I said at the beginning. We're not educating the market. You don't need to. Are you it? Then why are we different? How could I make you successful?
Yeah.
Then I need to qualify. Why us? Why now? Yeah. What problem do I solve? You don't make you successful. If I can't, you're already gone.
Yep.
Like, because there's enough opportunity to go to the next person. Cool. If I can, then we see a sales cycle in 6 weeks for $300,000 or $400,000. Wow. Right. So that's where we're applying an AI to get to a very quick discovery, much faster than you have done historically. Right. And then you have to control the evaluation, the POV, what success looks like.
Yeah.
When then fit your arms around that customer, especially when they spend that amount of money with you, of course, right? And then you know very, very good to whether you can be successful with them. So you need less sellers, but you actually need more technical type sellers and more creative type sellers to do that well. That's the change I'm seeing.
And in your organization, do the sellers continue to take up an active role after the deal is signed?
Yeah, because go back to consumption.
Yeah.
We just want more and more consumption, or more and more your business. We want every single penny you've got put onto our platform.
Of course.
Right? So yes, it's a short answer.
And the sellers continue to hold the account forever, or
We're too early.
Right.
On that journey. Right. Yeah, we're too early at the moment. Right. And we do a lot of chopping and changing. That's what I go back to. I said you need an amazing RevOps team, which I'm fortunate just to have on team, but we have there where constantly analyzing what's happening, constantly analyzing competitive threats, constantly analyzing our pricing and everything, and then making sure fitting our orbit, our go to market, so it's a geography, is it vertical, size of accounts we're going to target and everything else.
Yeah.
There's always a little microscope.
And you've got RevOps doing all of that analysis.
Yeah, 100%. I used to do it.
Yeah.
And I've had to let go as we've got bigger.
Yeah.
And they're much better.
So yeah, no, I hear that. And RevOps still reports into you though, rather
So it
than
don't.
finance.
So in our organisation, it's strange they report into finance, but yeah, I don't care.
They jump more.
They sort of dotted line into me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's my right hand person.
Yeah.
As a court. Me, I don't report directly to me. It actually doesn't matter. Okay.
And we're seeing the finance role taking such an active role now. In the past, if you were selling something under a certain value, you kind of, your manager could sign it off, right?
Yeah.
Now everything seems to be going through
Well, that's the margin, it's CRMs, right? So in our own SaaS world, we model on 87% gross margin.
Yeah.
Right, at this world's 30, 40 points. It's way lower. And if you think time to value for SaaS companies is 1.1 years, I think it's Salesforce, right? Gen AI is more 2 years plus. Wow. So that's why finance are getting more involved, because the margin pressures, yes, are all in this race of distribution brand I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That we make sure we don't go under, we have enough money to survive.
And is there a time frame after the deal's signed that you need to be delivering value before you, if you don't, then you might have a churn risk?
Well, with this, with APIs, it's so fast. Where you do the eval sets and everything else, that's a good and bad thing, right? It's so easy to get in. It's also easy to be swapped out. So it's almost instant value.
So how do you build a moat in that environment? How do you get them to continue with that?
Well, it's back to the index. Yeah. So our whole value proposition is around accuracy. Okay. Right. So it's all about giving highly accurate answers, right? So the perfect answer to your search.
Yeah.
In the enterprise. It's a really hard problem to solve for. That's why they want bring web indexes. That's why you need academic course card. There's some of the best engineers on the planet in your organization, and need a lot of money to build a web index as well.
But as a layman customer, how do you explain that to me? How do I understand that you're more accurate than A another?
So there are four main metrics so one is accuracy, you care about. Secondly is freshness. So accuracy, so let's talk about accuracy first, right? So I have 100 questions of asked.
Yeah.
How many came back? Right. So like the human, the battery, this goal data set back now where the parameters is, yeah. So there are independent benchmarks that would do that. It's not New.com saying, against our competitors, right? Frames and Meta and everything else. So we use those to ground ourselves in the truth. Where's it? Okay. And then with the customer, he or she will give you their own then questions, like 50 or 40 questions they will give you. Okay. And then we're one of those different use cases for it. So that's number one. No.
So accuracy.
Number two is freshness.
Okay.
So how up to date is the information as well? So we built a news index for DuckDuckGo, which is very unique. So we now unify that with a web index, and that piece has freshness. Number three, it is latency.
And so, sorry, on freshness, how fresh is it? I mean, if a news article comes out yesterday, it'll be indexed today.
No, 5 minutes.
Oh, within 5 minutes?
Yes,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And again, how does that compare to your peers?
They don't have a news index.
They don't do that at all?
No.
Okay, interesting. But how up to date are so?
Well, it depends on the use case, right? So it all depends. Does it actually matter to be up to 5 minutes? Yeah, recall recency, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in social media, which a lot of our customers are, we do 1 billion calls a month onto our web index now, then they do care about the latest information as goals. If you're doing a bit of research and going to need to cook an alcohol, you want a full briefing, you probably don't care what happened the last 5 minutes. In the last day, the press releases, the coins and everything else. Yeah. So it all depends on the use case.
Okay, so we've got accuracy, we've got recency.
Yeah, then which is freshness. Then we have basically latency.
Yes.
Right, so how fast did I get the result?
Okay.
Going again, if you're in a consumer-based business, right, you care about sub 400 or 300 milliseconds. Right, so the reason why Google was so successful over Yahoo and everybody else is they suddenly changed the way they measured everybody internally, their engineers. They put it publicly, that's 250 milliseconds.
Right.
And that changed search forever. Okay, and the best is history. What on the Google, that's what we need to do when we're serving those type of use cases.
So speed,
right? That's right. And if you again, Tim Cook, will normally take you 4 or 5 hours to bring your briefing together.
Yeah.
You're going to get it in 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter so much.
Sure.
Right? Okay. And the final one's cost to service, called CTS.
Okay.
How much did it cost me to get that answer? What value, how valuable is it to you? So you go back to a web inlet to say $5 to $6 a charge per 1,000.
Yeah.
Go back to doing an analyst report, $25,000 per person.
Yes.
Yeah, so all depends again on the use case and what the engineers want. And actually, your customer in our space is different. It's the CTO,
Right.
well, it's the AI research engineers, people building the AI labs and people like that as well. Or it's the hedge funds need to know certain information they've got to plug in.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, Guy, I actually love the AI industry, because you don't have to influence all the people, the desktop and all this. You're sending to the CTO, the CIO, whatever information that they can just embed into their own applications.
So it makes a lot of sense. And that's the way a lot of businesses are going now. Rather than paying someone else a big SaaS fee, they're just using these tools to build their own. So let's talk a little bit about your go-to-market function. And what's your tech stack like?
So actually, the RevOps leader said to me on Monday how many solutions we have in the tech stack. And they said, but it's like 40 or something. What? Which, like, wow. Yeah, I said, wow. So, yeah, a lot of it I don't see, especially for a company of our size. So, but the main one is Salesforce. Okay. Yeah. But over on the top of Salesforce is Gong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a lot of stuff where we get data in, make sure it's correct. And, you know, what else we use? Connect the dots.
Yes, that's
Massive fan of that. Yeah, Andrew Sigris is good mate of mine, but he's a great company he's building now. So
yeah, this kind of relationship.
Yeah, well, it's basically put your board, everybody there, and see your LinkedIn connections, and you use your investors, and you use them to make introductions that you may not have known before, but you're doing it at scale.
Right? Yeah, that's another company called ORBB, a similar model. And I think again in the world that we're now living in, those relationships are so important.
Yeah.
And I think organizations have got access to so many relationships they don't know about.
Yeah.
Especially the larger the business, the larger the pool of relationships they have. And the challenge with LinkedIn as a tool is that those relationships are owned by individuals, and we need to get them available to the whole business. And I think things like Connect the Dots and all are great tools to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But the one thing that I will double down on is Gone, and then put a bench on Claude over the top of every L, because maybe you've read Andy Grove's book, not only the power of the high, his other one, I'll think of it at the moment. But in there, Tom Siebel used to get us to write a report every single Sunday night about the business, what we did last week.
Yep.
What are you going to do this week?
Yeah, right.
There's a bang line there. We do it, venue.com. So this is a good discipline to have. Well, yeah, but you fully understand your business, what's happening and everything else as well. I've now got Claude doing that with Granolia. So lives at Granolia, I think it's recorded, obviously, all that sort of stuff. But then through Gong, I get my RevOps team. They give me a full Gong report. Right, so every conversation that's happened across the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything's links to my V2 Mon, to my OKRs.
Yeah.
Everything's linked in Claude, and it gives a beautiful output with a red, amber, green of what we need to do, right? And then what my focus is, what misses were for the week, what the successes were for the week, what my focuses are for next week, and everything else as well. And then all the execs do that, and we share it in the channel, and we're looking to aggregate that together so we're all aligned on where the focus is to the company and where we're going. But having that gone over the top, listing everything is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, massive fan.
That is not just for sales guy, it's for the product team as well.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing all the objections the sellers are getting, hearing
What competitors are being mentioned. Yeah, it's really, yeah. No, one of the things that we do when we work with a customer is we can analyze the last, say, 1,000 hours of call recordings or the last year's worth of call kills from a GOM. And rather than allowing the sellers to tell us how well they qualified the customer or how well they dealt with objections, will go through all of that historical traffic to try and use the AI to score it.
Yeah.
And you can see it. When you do that for a year's worth of content, you can start to see that individual sellers are getting better at qualifying or not as good or dealing with objections coming up and so on. And it's amazing when you see that volume of data on a graph and you can see which sellers are getting more powerful. And it's not coincidence that those that are getting better at qualifying, getting better at dealing with objections are the ones that their win rates are getting better and the level of coverage they need to hit their quota is reducing.
Yeah.
And again, it gives us as leaders the tools and the insights we need to be able to support those sellers and help them to grow faster.
100%. So, Peter, I can't believe we've managed to get through so quickly. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about it?
Yeah, just knock me up on LinkedIn.
Very good. And if they mention the podcast, you'll accept the invite, right?
100%. But that's actually on that, right? When people just reach out to you with no reason, they can't be asked to write why they want to connect. I just want to upset me. Great. I've already got 4,500 of my closest friends there on LinkedIn. But really, if you're happy to connect, to exchange or whatever, right? But 90 members are going to be trying to sell you something.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And if you take the time to write and say why, please.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. Well, Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, looking forward to watching the progress of you.com.
Awesome, Guy. Thank you.